Hey everybody, we're going to be talking about something that happened on October 25th. I'm going to need you to mark that because it's not the end of it all. So things are happening so quickly, so much that I want to make sure we timestamp this. On October 25th, Israel pulled off the unthinkable. And so it's important that you understand. Israel disabled Iran from being able to launch a nuclear warhead into Israel, and they took them out. We're going to talk a little bit about how they did that. We're going to talk a little bit about the tools they used, and we're going to talk about an unheard of, unseen quiver, or I should say arrow, that's in Israel's quiver, and you may have never heard of it before. But stay tuned as we get into a very, very interesting, I think, podcast that you're going to want to know about.
Real Life presents the Jack Hibbs podcast with intention and boldness to proclaim truth, equip the saints, and impact our culture. Today, if this podcast lifts you up and encourages you to live a more fulfilled life in Christ, then make sure you leave us one of those 5-star ratings. To us, that's like saying amen or yes. Then that rating will encourage others to listen. Now open your hearts to what God's Word has to say to you. Here is Jack Hibbs.
Well, hey everybody, welcome to this edition. I was going to say special. It's going to be kind of weird. It's very not normal for us, but it's for this reason. Number one, we would love for you to share, to click the bell to get notifications, and to give us a rating because it matters. That's the best thing you can do for us other than pray for us. But today, we're going to just take advantage right now of the situation that recently transpired and will probably, we've not seen the last of it, and that is Israel's ability to do what they did the other day regarding Iran and its proxies as well as its supporters. That's Iran's supporters. When I say supporters, I don't mean individuals. I mean nations like North Korea supplies Iran with military resources. Russia has a legal agreement, has for decades, with Iran to not only supply military aid to them, but to that they're bound by law to come and help Iran if Iran's ever in trouble. And if Russia's ever in trouble, then Iran has agreed to come and help Russia. And then China. China and Iran are extremely connected together regarding oil and natural gas and other types of things. But China is a military supplier in some ways, including technologies. By the way, I guess all of those nations I mentioned do supply technologies, period, and know-how to the Iranians, some of them more than the other, and some of them more hardware than the other. But I want to start by just talking with you guys what transpired. So at the end of a Jewish holy day, a feast, a festival of the Lord, the Israelis did something that was completely off the map or off the calendar, and that is that they attacked Iran's nuclear capabilities, as well as its command control capabilities, as well as its early warning system capabilities. Let me tell you why it was so radically unexpected. Back up. The Israelis have always notified the United States and sometimes Great Britain with their plans when they do military actions. In the realm of national intelligence, this is part of the norm when you have an allied nation an allied nation as Israel is to us, whereby we share technologies, meaning we sell military devices, military inventions, high-tech inventions. We sell them to Israel, always first. But part of that is because the know-how, the invention, the brilliant mathematics and engineering skills usually come from Israeli individuals themselves, even if it's a United States Department of Defense development, invention, it's most often done with Jewish brains. It's a fact. And so much of what is known as DARPA, you can look that up later, D-A-R-P-A, Israel and Israel know-how is very much involved with DARPA. DARPA will deny it. DARPA denies that they exist. DARPA denies that they have an unlimited budget. DARPA denies that. DARPA denies that they don't have to report to Congress regarding their spending because we don't have any money to spend. DARPA is how we have microwaves. DARPA is how we have everything that we have in our military shelf of warfare, most often, if not always, originates at DARPA. And there's a facility not far from where I'm at. It's about 80 miles from here. And it is one of DARPA's test sites, and it just happens to be the infamous Edwards Air Force Base. DARPA runs and operates out of that area, but not exclusively. But having said that, the Israelis are very, very bright people. That's not my opinion. It's my observation. When you look at all of the recipients of the Nobel Prize that's awarded to geniuses in their field of expertise. It's remarkable because someone could look at the recipients of the Nobel Prize and conclude that the Nobel Prize committee are racist. You could say that they're racist. Why? Because by far, the ethnicity of those who receive Nobel Prizes, by far, are Jews. Did you know that? They're Jewish. Jews get it more than any ethnic group in the world. Why? They're smarter. I argue that they're gifted by God. There's a whole nother discussion as to why are Jews so smart when it comes to money? Why are they so smart when it comes to inventions? Why are they so smart in publishing and in music? Why are they so smart, for example, in the diamond industry, precious metals? It's actually linked to their exposure in their years of captivity in foreign countries, starting with Egypt itself. It's remarkable. We can talk about that some other day. It might blow your mind. Why are so many physicians Jewish? We would have to go back to the Babylonian Empire to get that answer. It's pretty cool. We're talking about Israel and its secret mission to disarm Iran from going nuclear. And why the surprise? Because when Israel let the United States, Joe Biden, Kamala Harris, Secretary of State Mike Johnson, and a handful of those at the Pentagon know what was going to happen, it was leaked. It was leaked to the Iranians. And Israel found out about it. It was actually posted on an Iranian Instagram, if you can believe that. And Israel immediately detected that and then busted the U.S., and Biden's administration has been in damage control ever since. But the individual has actually been found. That person has been named. It is a woman. She's known to have done this before in the past. And yet when Biden was elected as president, he hired her. knowing that she had a record of shooting her mouth off and being on Iranian payroll in the past. So why keep that from hiring her? Joe Biden's team hired her. She had top secret clearance, and she was working for one of the high-ranking handful of experts and of our nation's secrets. She worked for this individual, and she got that data, and she leaked it to the Iranians. And so I'm going to show you some of the things that she leaked to them. Israel, of course, finding out about it, stopped the plans. They said, okay, it's been found out. We're stopping the plans. So everybody took a big, deep breath and relaxed that Israel was not going to do this, it turns out, on Shabbat evening of this festival. They're not going to do it. They'll pick some other time. They'll re-strategize, reconfigure, because the aircraft were named, the site locations were named, the cover was blown. There's no way Israel could pull this off now, because Israel, like the United States, thrives off the element of surprise. And so I want to read something to you from the scriptures to get us going into this. Psalm 144 verse 1 says, "Blessed be the Lord my rock, who trains my hands for war and my fingers for battle." And I want to couple that with Exodus 15:3, where there Exodus 15:3 says that the Lord of hosts, the Lord is my name, and the Lord is a warrior. The Lord is a warrior. That's amazing. Why? Because it declares that the Lord of Sabaoth, not the Lord of Sabbath, the Lord of Sabaoth, the Lord of heaven's armies. Imagine what's at the command of the Lord. One angel, for example, the Assyrians were getting ready to destroy Israel, obliterate them off the face of the earth. And one angel, when the Assyrian Empire was sleeping the night before the invasion, one angel killed 185,000, or is it 186,000 warriors in one night, one angel. The Bible says that when the king of the Assyrians got up and looked around that day, the entire 180,000 plus soldiers were dead. But I don't know how that happened. Did the angel cut their throats? Did the angel suck the lungs out of their air? We don't know how it happened. But one angel did it. God commands the hosts of heaven, an innumerable amount of angels. And those angels right now are no doubt focused on Israel, because God is focused on Israel right now. So what did Israel do? Israel did probably what you're thinking. Gosh, if we have the plan and now it's been blown and everybody knows about it, the last thing the world is going to expect is for us to do it to go with the original plan. Because they're ready for us. The Iranians, the Russians, the Chinese, the North Koreans, for that matter, the Iraqis and those in Syria, they're ready for us. So we can't do it. And so somebody in Israel said, if they don't think we should do it that day, then that's the day we're going to do it. Let's keep our plan. And they did. They did. It was brilliant. So while the Israeli civilians were sleeping that night, Netanyahu, being extra nice, I guess, called up Joe Biden while his aircraft, while Israeli aircraft were in the air, and Netanyahu said, okay, we're doing it. But the great thing about Netanyahu's phone call, which is traditional, wasn't days before this time. It wasn't hours before this time. It was 8 minutes before they were dropping the first bomb. They told Biden, we're doing this. So by the time Biden had any opportunity to have anybody else leak the information, it would have been too late. So let's get into this. To me, this is fun stuff. Number one, there was 100, mark it down in your notes if you care to, 122 aircraft involved in the disarming of the Iranian nuclear weapon systems. 122 Israeli aircraft. There were only 23 actual fighter aircraft. 23 aircraft, 23 fighters flew into. Now, some have posted on Telegram, some on Instagram, where they were, for example, Jordanians in Jordan, and they heard something going, they heard jets, and they turned on their cameras. You can watch it. It's not secret. People posted it. I saw them. And they were scanning their phones around in the sky. And as one guy scanning the phone around looking, an F-35 flew over this guy's phone at about 50 feet. Just scared the snot out of him. But number one, that tells you that the F-35 had left Navatim Air Base down in the south, and it was inbound to key locations in Iran, and it flew over Jordan. You got to go over Jordan to get to Iran. And it was at extremely low level. What's interesting about that is, and we don't know the answer to that yet, is that the F-35 doesn't have to fly low level like other airplanes used to do. But let's go. This was one of the pieces of equipment that was used in the night to attack Iran. This is the F-15 Strike Eagle. It is a plane that is built by the United States. It has been in service for the United States Air Force for decades. It is a platform that is constantly being upgraded and updated. It is one of the most formidable fighter jets in the world. Even though Russia may have newer aircraft, it is famous with the Russian Air Force. They never want to tangle with the F-15 Strike Eagle. It is absolutely brilliant. In fact, you can check this out, everybody, for those of you who care. I hope you do care. You can go to YouTube and check out a miracle. Go look later. Israeli Air Force F-15 miraculous landing or miraculous flight. Why? Because one of the Israeli F-15s got in a battle, and it was this part was blown off, and it's not supposed to fly this way. It's not supposed to fly like this. It was supposed to crash. And it landed, nobody was killed. It landed like this at Tel Naf Air Base in Israel. I've had a chance to be there several times. And it landed like this. And all of the U.S. General Dynamics and the companies that assembled this, they quickly went to Israel to examine it. They told Israel, don't touch it. We have to see this because it wasn't supposed to happen. The F-15 Strike Eagle was one of the pieces of hardware that was used that night to eliminate key areas, and I'm going to enumerate what those key areas are that Israel had to take out regarding the disarmament of Iran. Now, I have to warn you up front. I have a different conclusion than a lot of people in their early on postings of what happened after the attack. I have a different perspective. It's not genius. It's just that I waited 24 to 30 hours after the attack for me to form my opinion. Had to do that. Sorry. And it's not that I'm a genius. I wish, but you just want to wait, because when this thing began to unfold, people began to get upset. The Israelis themselves, they wanted to see a giant mushroom cloud over Iran because Israel would have used a tactical nuke. Israel has tactical nuclear weapons. You say, what is a tactical nuclear weapon? It's a pinpoint nuclear warhead that instead of blowing up, for example, California, think about how massive California is. You can take Israel and stick it in California numerous times. California is huge. But if you could blow up California with a nuke and destroy the whole thing, okay? Israel invented, and they did that also with our involvement, a tactical nuke where you can drop a nuke and you could blow up, say, 5 million people that live in Los Angeles, the city of LA. You could just nuke LA alone, just there, pinpoint nuke. Israel has that. People were saying, we should have done that. We want to see a mushroom cloud. We want to see Tehran, the capital of Iran. We want to see it glowing green. Israel didn't do that. They did something else. Israel went into certain areas knowing that just down the roadway, so to speak, was the intercontinental ballistic missile, the ICBM body, the propulsion system, everything operational, except it wasn't yet armed with a nuclear warhead because it was still missing some of its components. It was not yet assembled. The components to make it a viable nuclear warhead to launch against Israel or against the United States or against Europe or against Saudi Arabia was those parts were a few miles away at manufacturing facilities that had not yet been, I'm joking right now, that had not yet been FedExed over, I don't know if they use FedEx or not, UPS, delivery truck. They hadn't moved over some critical devices that would have been able to throw the switch and arm that nuclear warhead. So what did Israel do? Instead of blowing up areas of Tehran and other areas of Iran, the nation, they took out several locations that were needed to make this a warhead. Sending a message to Iran that we know where these things are at. We just blew them up. So we just delayed you from having a nuclear weapon. And to do some of these things, you would use, for example, the F-15. In Israel, it's the F-15I, I standing for Israel. One of the go-to aircraft that was used is a remarkable aircraft. Still to this day, it is decades old. It is still one of the most formidable dogfight, maneuverable fighter jets in the world. It is greatly feared, and it is the F-15. The F-15 is F-16. F-15 Strike Eagle. F-16 is the Fighting Falcon. F-16 Falcon jet, they'll call it. The F-16. It's a very small plane. It's extremely fast, supersonic. It is able to carry quite an arsenal, but this thing moves. It is so fast, so maneuverable that when in what is known as Operation Red, Maple Leaf, Canada holds a maple leaf. We use in the Nevada desert. I'm forgetting the name of it. Red, what is it called? It's where the nations of the world come and they do mock fights with one another. I can't believe I'm forgetting this. Anyway, it's held at Nellis Air Force Base just outside of Vegas. And they use this guy to be the bad guys. So this would be dressed up like a Russian or Chinese aircraft because it's so wicked. And then the other nations have to try to defeat it. Red flag. That's it. Red flag. And this was used. And this aircraft is one of Israel's go-to aircraft, the F-16. I happen to have a squadron patch from the Valley Squadron 109, the 109 Valley Squadron. A lot of friends there in that squadron, and it's based in several bases, but its biggest base is in the north of Israel at Ramat David Air Base, and that is an aircraft that was used as well. But look, see this? Watch this. The 15 and the 16 are not stealth aircraft. In other words, if they're coming at you, you can see them on your radar systems. Iran could see them. Iran's got all the gear. They got all the Russian, the S-300 system, supposed to be the best in the world. Russia installed it there. And no sweat, Iran would have shot these guys down because Iran had the better early warning system. By the way, there was a triangulation system set up as well. There were systems monitoring from Syria, Russian-made. So Syria had scanning early warning systems to prevent Israel from doing what they did. Iraq had early warning systems that were protecting Iran, and Iran had its early warning systems, all built by the Russians, and it's invincible. You're not supposed to get past it. This one's near and dear to me for the reason I'll tell you. It's very personal. It's not top secret. It's personal, and it's very private. This is pretty cool. I got to say, God has just always in my life spoiled me. And one thing I've learned from God is either ask big things from God or don't. God's just good. So, what do I mean by this? Some of you may recognize this. This was one of the key players of the warfare that night. By the way, together this orchestra of firepower worked for 3 hours over Iran, Iraq, and Syria. 3 hours to do their job. And within 3 hours, everything was done. This right here is the F-35 Lightning. And I was sitting, having coffee in Jerusalem. Lisa and I, with a couple, husband and wife. And while we were sitting there, the gentleman's phone rang. And he was an Israeli military officer. And he's obviously speaking in Hebrew, and you could hear him. And, it's beautiful when they talk because the conversation is getting more elevated, and it sounds like, they're going to kill somebody. It's so passionate. And he hangs up, and it was all really good. And here's what the conversation was. The conversation was, so I'm not going to tell you his name, but I'll call him Ronnie. So the phone rings, and Ronnie says, hello. And so on the other end, the Air Force command, the IDF command said, well, you know how we've had this campaign for people to send in names to name the F-35 Lightning. What are we going to call it? Because we're going to be the first ones to buy them from the U.S. The U.S. is going to sell them to us first. No other nation on earth first. We are going to be first. So you already knew that, and you had a campaign among the Air Force to name it. And we got all these names, but is it true that you don't like any of those names? And he said, Ken. Ken means yes. Yes, it's true. I don't like any of the names. Why? Why do you not like the names? Why not the lightning? Keep it the lightning. Or why not call it the thundercloud or the thunderbolt? Why not call it the F-35 Wicked? Or why not call it the F-35 Ouch? Or what? Why? Why don't you like any of these names? Hundreds of names. Can't you like one of them? And he said, I don't like any of them. And he said, there's only one. This aircraft is so amazing. There's only one name this aircraft can have. And they said, what's the name? And he said to them, and I was sitting right there. Of course, he's speaking Hebrew, so I don't understand what he's saying. He says, in our presence, we don't know this, he says, it must be called the Adir, A-D-I-R, the F-35 Adir. And they said, no way. There is no way we're going to name that plane the Adir. And he said, why not? And they said, don't you know the name of that? That is the name of the God of the Old Testament. That's the name of God, the God of the heavens, the Lord of the heavens, Adir. Jehovah Adir, the Lord who controls the heavens. And he said, that's exactly why I wanted to be named that. Nothing can beat this thing. It is the Lord of the heavens. And they said it's going to incite unnecessary anger because it's boasting. And he said, that's the name of it. And they said, okay, it's the name. All right, it's the name. He hangs up. And he says, wow. And I said, are you okay? And he goes, I'm great. And I go, what's going on? And he goes, well, you're going to know what a lot of people are going to know very soon. But outside of the guy that was on the phone, outside of me, you're the third person to know what I'm about to say, and you're a Gentile. I go, what is it? I'm dying to know. He said, it's going to be called the Adir, the Lord of the heavens. And I just thought, wow, that's amazing. I felt so privileged. He goes, yeah, but you can't tell anybody right now until it gets out in the news. Jerusalem Post is going to get it out there, and then you can talk about it. I go, okay. So this is stealth. This is stealth. The F-35 comes in various type of variants. The United States Marines, for example, and the U.S. Navy have F-35s that can land. They can land like this on an aircraft carrier, right, or on a platform, or on the top of or somebody's backyard, for that matter, or it can land conventionally. It's quite amazing. It is stealth, and it was a key player in disarming Iran from its nuclear powers, for a time anyway, right? So before I go to the home run hitter, it's not these guys. Sorry. It's the home run hitter, not the F-35, though it was awesome what it did, and it's stealthy, and it's mean. It carries some stuff. One thing I know, when it flies by you low, with full afterburner on, it shake your teeth loose. It shake your guts. It's awesome. F-15 Strike Eagle, incredible, awesome. Not the star player that night, but a big deal, a very, very big deal. F-16, what a workhorse, amazing, very powerful. Don't want to mess with it. As great as it was, it had its mission. This carried out certain parts of the mission. The F-15 carried out certain parts of its mission. And the F-35 basically delivered the mail to your front door without you even knowing about it. But even that, it was not the star of the night. This was the star of the night. Technically, it was the two of them. But it's the same platform. You're going to find this, I think, shocking. So the Israeli intelligence, the IDF, the IAF, some time ago, teamed up with U.S. permission, a private company. That private company is based, I do believe, don't hold me to this, I know that they have facilities at Long Beach Airport, just north of here. I know that because it's flight simulators and it's training for pilots to fly this plane is in Long Beach, California. But I do believe it's a company based in Georgia, if I remember right, and that is the company called Gulfstream, not the guys that build the camping trailers. This is Gulfstream, the corporate jets. Gulfstream, the world-renowned, top-of-the-line, best of the best corporate jets. For example, the Crown Prince of Saudi Arabia, various leaders in the world, Oprah Winfrey, Kenneth Copeland owns this. This is an $85 million aircraft. When the Israelis got done with it, working with Gulfstream, the price is classified. It was built in Georgia, and then it was flown to a location near Israel. It was enhanced, and then it flew to southern air bases in Israel, where it was enhanced to its maximum capabilities. And I'm talking about two types of this same aircraft. It's a Gulfstream 650 and 660 platform, 550 and 560, G550, 560 platform. And one of them is called the Eitan, E-I-T-A-N. Now, when you Google that, you're going to see a drone. We're not talking about the Eitan drone. We're talking about the Eitan, and you might just add Gulfstream. You might see it. It's not easy to find, by the way, even on the web. And it has a brother, and the brother is the Aran, or the Aran. So here's the fun part. The fun part is this. I'll show you this right here. This is the fun part. And you say, what's that? Looks like a corporate jet. Well, it kind of is, except it doesn't carry people on the inside, except for the pilots. The inside of this aircraft is, as an Israeli friend told me, it's a satellite that takes off and lands at airports and air bases. It's a satellite. The capabilities that this thing has rivals satellites and technology in space. Israel's the only one that has it. Its enhanced properties are so classified that they do not share them even with the United States. When Gulfstream has to come and do some sort of maintenance, maybe on the engines or something on the airframe, they cover up all of the enhancements or avionics. No one's allowed to see it, top secret. I'll get to the point in a moment. This is the basic silhouette, something you'd see flying into any airport, anywhere where there's people there to do business, corporate business. I think I can just jump right to it. I guess this is from the Israeli website. You can see the Israeli AIF, and it shows you a little bit more of the side profile of the plane. And here is one of the aircraft itself. There's only a handful of these. Last time I was aware, there were 7 of these in the world. For some of you who are really keen-eyed, you see a lot of warts and dimples and antenna on every part of the plane. They use every surface, these cowlings on the side, all of them enhanced by Israel. Why? And here's where we both, no pun intended, this is where we land this podcast. Israel does not have a military budget like we have. So we make stealth aircraft any day we want. We'll just borrow the money from China. Israel can't do that. So we have a massive arsenal of stealth aircraft. The U.S. does. But Israel, they need it more than we do, at least for now, because Israel is constantly under attack. So what do? Do you know what? Getting back to the Nobel Prize geniuses they are, somebody sat down and said, we can't afford these planes. We can't keep buying F-35s. Oh, by the way, out of the 122 aircraft that were responsible for that night, 23 of them fighter jets. This was the 24th, but it's not a fighter jet. 24 aircraft deployed. The remaining aircraft I mentioned a moment ago, the balance of them were support, air refuelers, for example, electronic warfare systems, and the like. Here's what's amazing about this. Gosh, I hope you get a big kick out of this when I blow the lid off of it. This aircraft, what you do is this aircraft takes off and flies, and it will what's called loiter. It will loiter somewhere north of 50,000 feet. It just goes like this over a region. If you have 2 of them, you'll have another one loitering over here. From this plane to this plane could be as far as 800 miles apart. Okay? Watch this. This plane has the capability to connect into any radar systems of any country in the world. It gets into their systems and it takes control. This aircraft takes control of the early warning systems. And what happened that night, this took control of Syria, Iraq, and Iran's early warning systems. This plane got inside the computer screens, the sites, and projected onto their screens and their detection systems that nothing was in the air. Once it established that, even the F-16 and the F-15, which is not stealth, instantly became stealth. It wasn't even there anymore. Oh, you're going to love this. If you took off, for example, if Israel decided to fly a CH-53 Israeli version, we know those here in America as the CH-53 Hercules or Sea Stallion. This plane makes it invisible. This plane cloaks this big helicopter, makes it invisible to the enemy early warning systems. Oh, it gets better. Out of all the aircraft that flew for 3 hours attacking all these key early warning systems, the sentries, right? The sentries, the lookouts for these other countries, this aircraft told all those installations, there's nothing up here and there's nothing coming at you. So they just leaned back, they drank their coffee and had their Turkish delight or their falafel, looking at the screen, and the computers were scanning everything's fine. We're all good. That's because this plane was telling them, everything's fine. Nothing to see here. It's all good. This plane made all the other aircraft in the air invisible. Only Israel has this. We don't have this. Israel has this. And here's what gets fun, and we'll end with this. That aircraft has the ability to project on the enemy early warning system screens and computers one airplane or 1,000 airplanes that are not even there in real life coming at you from a completely different direction and altitude. It can display F-16s, F-35s, F-15 coming at you, loaded up, flying out of maybe Saudi Arabia, heading toward Tehran, and freaks out your early warning systems, goes on alerts, scrambled jets. Iranian pilots get up there and they're looking around. We see them. They're on our scope. We don't see them anywhere physically. How does that happen? Right out of a Hollywood movie. This does it. This aircraft does it. This G50 and 650, this does it. Israel's got them. We don't. We use different things. It was a brilliant thing. Everybody listen, end with this. A lot of people are upset with Benjamin Netanyahu because he didn't turn Iran into an ash heap. I'm not. He had to walk a very fine political line because Biden had said, look, we're with you on this, but you can only go so far. You can't win too much. So do your thing to keep yourself safe, but don't go too far, or else we're not going to give you any more Chinese money. We're not going to keep being on your side. So Benjamin Netanyahu had to walk a fine political line. He did that. He threaded the needle. A lot of people hate him for it because they wanted to see a green cloud over Iran. What he did is that he kept the pipeline open for American support, smart move. He dismantled them enough so that Israel, which, by the way, they did this during the night. In the morning, Israelis woke up to a normal day. They went to work. They went into breakfast. They mowed their lawn. They did their thing. They flew out of Ben Gurion Airport. The nation wasn't even under alert. It was the most historic attack that Israel did in its history like this. And they were so confident that they didn't even tell the Israelis to stay in their bomb shelters for fear of an Iranian attack because Iran couldn't respond. Is that amazing? It's brilliant. So what a move. And I want to end with this. The Bible says regarding Israel that the Lord who watches over Israel, he neither slumbers nor does he sleep. God is the ultimate early warning system. God is the defense of Israel. And my friend, all this Israel military news from Hamas and terrorism and Hezbollah, and that's a whole nother story there, what they did with Hezbollah recently. Friends, it means this. God is waking up the world, especially the church, and he's telling us, hey, I'm about ready to refocus again on my nation Israel. I said in Ezekiel 36 and 37 that I would draw them back into the land in the last days, that they would occupy the land that I promised Abraham, that they would rebuild it and plant vineyards and they would live in houses. But they would do all of this in unbelief. They won't be believing in me until the Ezekiel 38 battle happens, and then they'll start believing in me. God says this. I'm paraphrasing it, but go ahead and read it for yourself. And I believe that we're at that moment where the ball that started rolling on October 7th, 2023, with Israel's response to that horrific terrorist attack that was the worst thing since Adolf Hitler, It's not cooled down, has it? It's not stopped, has it? It's not. Israel's still on the front page of the headline news. I believe that God is going to now move deeper, further on, into waking Israel up and calling it to come to him before the church leaves the earth. Because part of the church leaving the earth will no doubt have Jewish pigmentation, Jewish blood, Jewish DNA in the church, just like it did at the beginning. The Jewish church wound up getting Gentile DNA in it as it preached the gospel. Now the church is predominantly Gentile, but now there's Jews coming to know Jesus as Messiah, Yeshua as HaMashiach. I think God's on the move. I think the church's hours are limited on earth. I think we're going to be out of here. I don't know when. Of course, nobody does. But I just wanted to bring you a little bit of background to this. Kind of cool, kind of fun stuff to me anyway. Most of you have probably fallen asleep. Nothing that I've said is secret. Nothing that I've said is does any way reveal anything at all. But wow, amazing times. So pray for Israel. Psalm 122. Psalm 122 commands us to pray for Israel, to pray for the peace of Jerusalem, and of course to pray that the Jewish eyes are open to the salvation of the Messiah. That goes for Iran. That goes for Iraq. That goes for Jordan. That goes for Syria. That goes for Lebanon, Egypt, Turkey. May their eyes be open to the fact that Jesus is in fact the Messiah, and he's coming back soon. So God bless you guys. Thank you for staying with us on this interesting podcast. Okay? God bless you. Take care.
This Jack Hibbs podcast, as well as all the broadcast outreach opportunities, are listener supported. Will you consider partnering with us through a special gift? Go to jackhibbs.com to learn more and stay connected.